Hello traders, John at StockBookie.com. Today we're looking at Goldman Sachs, JPM, BAC, and Citigroup. We follow the daily, weekly, monthly time frames. We use technical analysis here at StockBookie.com. If you like these videos, go to my website, sign up for the free membership, or subscribe to YouTube down here in the right-hand corner. So, all right, guys, daily chart, 2.6 million on a day, a little bit red, 1.41 down, or 0.62% on the day. So, nothing great, but on a big rally, Friday, this could not get going whatsoever. So, still in a bullish stance above the MAs, still above this trend line here, which is good, but we've been just going up and down in this lower trend, or this channel here, for about, since April, so ever since we came down. Had a great push up here, came right back in, chopping around sideways. Will this pop up? Maybe. If you're a bullish in a long position in Goldman, you got to make sure you hold these moving averages and this trend line. If it starts to slip, you're going to fill the gap. You're going right back to double bottom, which is 209.71. And remember, this is a big bearish pattern here. Even though we're above the MAs in a little bit strong stance, doesn't mean you can't slip down, come right back below, hit 200, and then possibly go lower. Let's look at the weekly chart. Weekly has great support at 209 though. So with the 50 MA, also this low pivot at 209.71 or 210. Let's go there. But check this out. So it goes up into the 20 MA on the weekly and gets rejected. So that's your number one goal here too. It's got to get back above the 20, then possible higher prices for GS. Still have a lot of overhead resistance here, so it's not just going to rip up, but see this bearish pattern, sideways inside bar. If that fails, then we could possibly go higher. So at this point, guys, markets, SPY, light volume, anything's possible. But this tells me if this was a regular market or normal, this would possibly be setting up for lower prices. Here's your target right here, 184, which would be the 200 MA on the weekly, and you do have a gap fill down here around 175 or so. If it comes back in here, guys, 185 to 175, I'll be buying down here, or this low pivot here at 158. So I know it's Goldman. I know everyone thinks it's going higher, but this little bearish pattern here, if that plays out, we'll be bringing down here, filling the gap, and then coming down to this low pivot. And honestly, we could come down here about 138 or so. Higher prices, got to get through all this overhead resistance, go back to the double top, and then possibly higher. Again, you never know. Lip service from the Fed, this thing can pop, as well as the other banks too. JPM, though, that one was a strong horse of the day. Right back in the double top. Let's go to the daily. So it gets back to double top. Here's the double top from, back in March. Goes back in, kind of gets rejected, kind of chopping around. So right now we're looking for pattern, guys. We're still back above the MA, strong stance coming off of a bullish pattern. Right back up to double top. Got this pivot too. Did not confirm above the all-time high. So we got to see some follow through next week and what it does on the weekly close. That's what we're going to be watching closely. So if this thing goes sideways for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 days, this 20 MA curls into price, that could set this thing off to 95. 96, 97, then possibly to 100 even number. It hits 100 even number, I will definitely be adding my more to my short JPM position. So right now though, guys, nothing wrong. Bullish pattern starting to play out. We're going into double top resistance. Let's see if this thing can keep pushing. Volume's not bad either, so we'll have to see what happens this week with the light volume on the SPY and see if it can pick up. If the volume does pick up on the SPY, we will get more selling in these markets. Here's the weekly chart. It did pop above it, came right back in, closed right on top of it. So I want to see a push through on the weekly. I'd like to see it close around 96, 97. Then we'll possibly be going to 100 even number, 101. It will pierce through it like everything else, guys, 101, 102, and go from there. And then they'll hype it and all that good stuff and possibly go higher. So remember the CNBC hype, guys, that can take stocks a lot higher. The CNBC hype could take stocks a lot lower. So right now, nothing wrong above the MAs. Going to other than double top here, guys. Let's see how it reacts in the next week. If it gets above, consolidates, or maybe it just gets rejected and comes right back in on JPM. Let's look at BAC. BAC, pretty much the same pattern for a lot of these guys. It just took off. Came in, bullish pattern, up, down, channel, sideways, starting to break out, came back a little bit. Looks like it filled the gap on the weekly chart. Let's go to the daily. Should start with that anyways. Let's go to the daily chart. Here's that channel like Goldman Sachs was in, above the MA, started breaking out. Here's the gap that it filled. Stopping there though, guys. Still have a lot of overhead resistance around 25.83 as well. This thing's chopping around. Great setup. Pattern starting to fail. This is more little bearish, but it's popped up, but it's not looking that good. Volume's light, kind of grinding with the markets. It was only 12 cents up on a huge rally day. These banks had to participate more, guys, in the Friday rally, and they just did not. A little bit talking to us, in my opinion. Let's go to the weekly. Weekly, same thing though, above the MAs. They popped it above, still filled the gap. Let's see where this thing stops. I want to throw a quick retrace on here. This is a Fibonacci retrace, guys. Yeah, 750. Look at that. Closed right on top of it. So let's see what next week brings on this. Again, still a strong stance. Still looking good on all time frames. So let's look on the monthly real quick. Monthly, it just closed a couple, a week and a half ago. Yeah, monthly, you have the 200 MA. You are stretched a little bit at $18.37 from the 20 MA down in here, and you have good support from these highs. Highs came in, broke through it. It's chopping around. I'm thinking we're coming right back down. Let's see what happens on the weekly and the daily next week, and then we'll take it from there with BAC. If you're long in this one, holding back from, down in here, 15 bucks, 10 bucks or whatever it was, 12 bucks, take something off the table, guys. This is up and sideways, still slightly bearish. So even though we're above the MAs, you could see that it's having a hard time, guys, at the 750 retrace, almost at the 6182. Build the gap, and that's where it's pretty much kind of pausing. You got to get more consolidation, 20 MA curling in the price, and then possibly, boom, we're going higher on this one. Weekly chart, pretty much the same thing again. Let's see if we get some follow through, or does this click over and come right back down. So we need a little more evidence, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and let's see where this thing can go next week. Citigroup. So guys, boom, weekly chart, little bit of a topping tail. We did close right on top of the last tail, so it really wasn't any follow through. Volume was a little lighter. We had the 4th of July week, so you'd expect that a little bit. But let's look at the daily. So daily still above the MAs, a little bit stretched. See how it got stretched here, and then it came right back down. Bullish pattern, boom, right back up. So now it's kind of chopping around, fighting its way up at 67.91. But let's look at a bigger time frame. I want to go back in time just to see, just to see if there's any higher prices here. So it looks like, wow. So that's the weekly chart on Citigroup. So going back to the weekly chart, even the daily, here was a gap fill at 67.59, guys. Look where it went to, right to it, and that's where it's having some problems. So if you go back to the big time frame, let's go back. There was your gap fill right here as this thing was up in La La Land at one point. Citigroup was, gosh, where was this thing? Wow, $500 stock. I mean, I think they had some splits and stuff like that, but unbelievable, guys. Gap fill, 67.59. That's where we're at. On the weekly, a little bit of a tail. Nothing crazy, but on the weekly chart, I want to see this bullish pattern starting to rip up here, guys. We're back above the 20 and the 50 and the 200 MA, starting to rip up. Volume's okay. I want to see more, just a good push up to 70, 72, 50, 75, and continue this ride up. Let's see if we can get and confirm above the 67.59 gap fill, and then we'll talk more about this one. Citigroup on the daily chart, though, again, kind of a weak push up, a little gap on some news. Boom, chopping around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, still holding the gap fill. Let's see what next week brings for the banks. It will be a big week, or even the following weeks, going into options X, and then going into the pretty much in the middle of the summer. Let's see if these volume markets stay low volume, just complacent, grinding higher, news driven, and all that stuff, and then we'll take it from there. All right, guys. I really appreciate you watching my video, stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe in the right hand corner here to my YouTube channel. And again, I really appreciate you watching my videos. Thanks again. God bless. See you on the charts.